It's a beautiful day, but I can't see it. That sentence changed everything. Not because it was clever, not because it was dramatic, but because it finally told the truth in a way people could feel. Let me take you back. Elliot was born into a family that had everything: money, connections, doctors who answered calls at midnight, specialists who flew in just to take a look. But Elliot was born without sight. And in the beginning, everyone treated it like a problem to solve. His mother memorized medical words she didn't fully understand. His father paid for new opinions, new tests, new machines, rooms filled with polite voices saying things like, "We'll see," and "We'll try," and "There's still hope." Elliot didn't understand the science. He understood the silence that came after it. He understood the way adults tried to sound calm, while their hands shook when they held him. When he was little, he didn't know what seeing meant. He only knew that other children pointed at things and laughed. And when they laughed, the air changed, light, effortless, like a window opening. He wanted that, but he couldn't reach for what he didn't know. So he learned the world another way. He learned it through sound, the soft click of his mother's heels on marble, the difference between a real smile and a polite one, the way rain made the city sound wider. He learned it through touch, the edge of a table, the warmth of a mug, the roughness of a book cover. He learned it through rhythm, because rhythm never lied. And yet, even with all the money, even with all the resources, one thing stayed stubbornly out of reach: normal life. At school, children were taught manners around him. They said, "Hi, Elliot." They said, "Do you need help?" They said all the correct words, but they didn't invite him to the games. They didn't pull him into the chaos of friendship. They respected him from a distance. Not cruel, just separate. It's a strange kind of loneliness, when people are kind to you but never close, when they treat you like glass. Elliot wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He just became quiet. Not quiet like empty. Quiet like someone who has learned that asking too much makes people uncomfortable. As he got older, he had tutors. Mobility training. People hired to make sure he was supported. He learned how to walk with a cane, how to memorize routes, how to count steps, how to hear the shape of a room by the way sound returned to him. He learned to live. But the one thing he didn't learn in any class was this: how to feel like he belonged. Years later, when Elliot was an old man, he found a place where he could belong without explaining himself. A park. Not the kind of park people imagine in postcards. No perfect silence, no neat little birds singing on command. This park had life. It had kids running, a skateboard clacking on pavement, couples arguing softly, then laughing 5 seconds later, elderly men playing chess and pretending they didn't care who won. It had wind. And wind, to Elliot, was honest, because wind touched everyone the same. He started going there often. At first, just to sit, just to listen. Then one day, he brought a piece of cardboard and a marker. He wrote, in plain, simple letters, "I'm blind. Please help me." People assume a sign like that is always about money. But for Elliot, it wasn't. Not really. He had money. He had a home bigger than he needed. He had people who checked on him. What he didn't have was the feeling of being part of the world. The sign did something important. It gave strangers a reason to acknowledge him, not out of pity, just out of recognition. At least, that's what he hoped. But the first day, nothing happened. Footsteps passed, fast ones, slow ones, some that hesitated for half a second, then kept going. He heard coins drop into a fountain nearby. He heard laughter. He heard a woman on the phone complaining about traffic like it was the end of the world. Elliot sat there with his sign and felt the same old thing return. That invisible wall. Not hatred, not cruelty. Just being skipped over, like a song people don't notice playing in the background. He kept his face calm. Old habits. But inside, a quiet thought rose up. Maybe I was wrong to come here with this. Still, he didn't move. He stayed. Because even being ignored in the middle of life felt better than being alone in a silent house. That's when he heard smaller footsteps stop in front of him. A pause, a voice, young, careful, not overly sweet. "Hi." Elliot turned his head slightly toward the sound. "Hello," he said. He heard the faint scrape of a marker cap, and then the girl spoke again. "Can I change your sign?" Elliot didn't answer right away. People rarely asked, they usually decided. But her question wasn't invasive. It was respectful. So he gave a small nod. "You can," he said. He heard cardboard shift, marker glide across it, and for a moment he just listened, trying to imagine what she was writing, though he knew he couldn't. When she finished, she put the sign back into his hands. "Okay," she said softly. "Now, just hold it like that." Elliot ran his fingers over the cardboard, feeling the indentations of fresh ink he couldn't read. "What does it say?" he asked. The girl hesitated. Not dramatic, just thoughtful. Then she read it aloud. "It's a beautiful day, but I can't see it." Elliot didn't react immediately, not because it didn't hit him, but because it hit him in a place he didn't expect. He swallowed. "That's different," he said. The girl gave a small laugh. "Yeah, that's the point." And then she walked away. Just like that. No speech, no performance, no "I'm saving you," just one sentence, and gone. Something changed after that, not instantly like a movie, but gradually in a way that felt almost unreal. A minute later, someone stopped. Elliot heard it. The shift in footsteps, the pause, the breath of a stranger who suddenly noticed him. A coin fell into the cup, then another, then another. But the biggest change wasn't the money. It was the voices. A man murmured, "That's heartbreaking." A woman whispered, "Oh my God." Someone said, "I never thought about it like that." People didn't just drop coins. They looked, even though Elliot couldn't. They stood still for a second. They felt something. Elliot sat there, holding his sign, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. He felt included. Not because people were staring at the blind man, but because for 1 second they stepped into his world. They imagined a beautiful day, and the absence of it. They didn't pity him. They understood him. And that is a different kind of warmth. The next week, something unexpected happened. A woman stopped and said, "Hi, I'm sorry. Can I sit for a minute?" Elliot smiled politely. "Of course." She sat, and then she didn't talk at first. She just breathed, like someone who needed a quiet place. After a moment, she said, "My dad, he's losing his sight. And I've been angry. Not at him, just at the world." Elliot listened. He didn't give her life advice. He didn't turn it into a motivational lecture. He just said something simple, "I understand." And the woman exhaled like she'd been carrying something heavy. After that, it kept happening. People started stopping, not because they wanted to help the blind man, but because he became a point of stillness in the park. Some came to talk about love, some about grief, some about fear. Elliot didn't claim he had special powers. He wasn't reading souls. He just listened the way someone listens when they've spent a lifetime paying attention. He could hear when someone's voice tightened on a lie. He could hear when a laugh was covering pain. Not because he was magical, because when you can't rely on sight, you stop being distracted by surfaces. You start hearing the cracks. And when people are tired of pretending, those cracks are where they finally tell the truth. One day the girl came back. He recognized her footsteps immediately. "Hi," she said. Elliot smiled. "Hello." She sounded pleased. "People talk to you now." "They do," Elliot said. "They don't just give money. They sit." The girl paused. "Good." Elliot held the cardboard gently. "I never got to thank you," he said. "You don't have to," she replied. "It was just a sentence." Elliot shook his head slowly. "No," he said. It wasn't. He tilted his face toward the sunlight he couldn't see and continued. Before, my sign said what I am. You changed it to what I miss. The girl didn't answer right away. And Elliot added softly, that's why people stopped. Because humans don't move when they hear labels. They move when they feel meaning. Here's the truth Elliot learned late in life. He didn't need people to feel sorry for him. He needed people to remember he was human. And maybe that's the deeper message of the whole story. Some people don't need saving. They need seeing, not with eyes, with attention, with presence, with one honest sentence that tells the truth without cruelty. Elliot still went to the park. Not every day, not forever, but often enough to keep his hands on the pulse of life. And even though he couldn't see the beautiful day, he could feel it. He could hear it in the footsteps that didn't rush past him anymore. He could feel it in the way strangers said hi like it mattered. He could sense it in the silence that finally felt peaceful, not punishing. Because for the first time, the world didn't move around him like he wasn't there. It made room. And sometimes, that's all healing really is. Not a miracle, just a life that finally makes room for you.